That's fine. Ready? All right, let's call this meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. First, we're going to the minutes, approve the minutes, and then we have new business to consider, a zoning map amendment request. Everybody had a chance to look at the minutes from the August 24th meeting. Thoughts, concerns? I should take three questions. I felt I have a comment. I felt that the discussion, the section talking about the lighting standards, especially the discussion, wasn't terribly clear. And I'd like to have a little bit more detail in there. You want to send us what you would like included in it? This is what I suggested. So you want me to read it or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Read it and see if everybody's okay with it.
So, okay, the first section on the lighting standards. And then the section where Jeffrey Hirsch explained. So I proposed to change those two paragraphs. The ones that start Jeffrey Hirsch and Dowling to the board discuss the ecological and environmental rationale for downcast lighting, including reduction in light pollution and minimizing disruption to insect and bird migration. Jeffrey Hirsch mentioned concerns about upcast lighting for second floor residents. Larry Tyson and Melissa Madrona expressed support for the current ordinance as an opportunity to move the town toward a more environmentally responsible future. Melissa Madrona stated that the required move from sodium vapor lamps to LED bulbs can result in brighter and cooler lights, resulting in more light pollution despite the benefit of reduced energy usage. Manager Dowling showed the board some options staff had selected as meeting the requirements and preferences of the town and expressed that a downcast option meeting these requirements and preferences may not be available, necessitating the town to act outside of its own ordinances. All the board members acknowledged the difficulty of the situation. The board discussed these and other light options in terms of light pollution and characteristics, but were advised that the final selection would be done by staff rather than the planning or town boards. And then the board also discussed what to call downtown lighting if the ordinance were to be changed. And that's pretty much the same. Municipal street lighting would be added as item number 7 to section 7.9 of the ordinance.
I don't really want in there that the board reviewed options.
Yeah. Well, it's Dowling showed the
Because
board
they weren't
options.
really options. They were just things that were offered by Duke, but we didn't know prices or any details or specs on them.
Yeah, I thought
And I don't
originally
want to get into the planning board looking at options for.
yeah, because he said like we're not selecting it. Right.
Right, and it's to be determined whether the town board will select it or not.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I felt the initial one that Dowling showed the board options available, the board discussed the lights. So that does make it sound like we're discussing it and making a decision. So I just
Right,
wanted to
I mean,
clarify
the
that.
discussion got off track. It should have been more about the ordinance.
Mhm. How can we express that we weren't really reviewing the options and that's not what our role was?
I think the comments that you wanted included are fine.
Mhm.
From my point of view, I think the rest of it we should steer clear of though.
So we need to revise our initial notes then anyway. Take that part out.
Yeah, because it already sounds like we reviewed the options and discussed all the options.
Right, it should have been strictly on the ordinance.
I like your additions about some of the comments folks made and the concerns they had, because I think that's a little clear, you know, in terms of what the concerns were.
Should we add these and then take out just this whole
Should we
paragraph?
take out the first two sentences of that paragraph where it says Dowling shows?
Yes.
So maybe that, just that you express that a downcast option meeting the requirements and preferences of the town may not be available. Instead of just taking out the show the board some options, because we didn't really look at them in detail anyway. So how about for that second one?
What if we take out the first sentence on that third paragraph under new business? And then include the comments that you want about that people said.
So like that first paragraph that I read staying the same and then going on to say that Ellen expressed that a downcast option meeting the requirements and preferences of the town may not be available. Right. But maybe not necessitating the town to act outside its own ordinances. Or and I think we
Yeah,
did all
I think we
acknowledge
should
the
take that.
difficulty of this situation. Or discuss these and other light options, let's take that out.
Right.
It's fine with me. Okay. Thank you for this approval. Motion to approve the minute.
As amended. As amended.
The second. Okay. Are approved as amended.
Melissa, can you send me the wording?
Yeah, there's a printed version there, but I can.
Okay, I didn't
email it to you if you want. So. Moving on to new business, a zoning map amendment request for the King Cave property on Highway.
So before you tonight is a map amendment request of the owners of the property. Let me show you a quick reference. I get to a lot more slides here, but there's two properties up front that are owned by this owner that are in the general business district right now. It's these two right here. And then there's 6 back here. They'll be better defined here as we go along that we'll be talking about. So I want to show you this in reference to where these properties are. UPS right here, Cove Creek, Walter Ash Road back here. So Alvin and Virginia Trust are the property owners. The property, as you can see, is off of East Main Street. The PIN numbers are. There's 6 of them. I'll go through the last 4 of each. They all start with 764-165. First one's 8973, 9819, 9855, 8744, 9700, and 9646. So we're talking about tonight these 6 properties back here, which are in the high density district of the town. The ordinance section for which the text amendment is requested is Article 3 under procedures, and specifically the zoning, which is 3.9 B, which is the zoning and map amendments of the ordinance. This is a recent survey of the property, 107 up here, the 2 general business commercial properties, and then this one has another lot line in it, but this is actually a larger tract on the tax record. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that we'll be talking about tonight. Those are those PIN numbers. So the applicant is requesting a map amendment that would designate the subject properties, those 6 properties, as general business district. This is the current ordinance the zoning map. So general business being the red, all of the red that you see here. And that right there is the UPS. The two properties that are already in general business. So the 6 that are behind that are right here, the high density district. The general business district is the largest district within Sylva's commercially zoned jurisdiction. The general business district offers a broad range of permitted use by right and special use permits in that district, such as lodging, retail, commercial, restaurants, public, civic, and recreational uses. Property improvements in this district are subject to development standards as set forth in the zoning ordinance, including building setbacks, landscaping, architectural standards, sidewalk construction, parking, stormwater treatment, et cetera. So obviously any vacant property or change of use on a property or redevelopment of a property that is triggered by the ordinance, these standards would apply. So moving forward, all those ordinance regulations would apply to any new development. Subject properties, again, this is an inset of that zoning map. So again, UPS property here, the 2 general commercial district properties that the property owner currently owns, and these 6 back here is what the map amendment request is for. So the subject properties are located on the south side of Highway 107, approximately 582 feet along Highway 107 and the Coke Creek intersection. Just beyond that, these properties total in 1.19 acres land area with 9 existing residential dwellings, which are manufactured homes, and a vacant restaurant, which is this former Soul Infusions tea house. So Soul Infusions being right here, and then the 9 units being back on this property. So the yellow highlighted is the properties that we're talking about, is what the zoning request is for, to change these to general commercial instead of high density district. And these, of course, already being general business that are attached. Access to these properties are from the public right of way of Highway 107, of course, right here, the driveway access, and in a private access road known as Pathfinder Lane, which is, of course, understand that as the 107 project improvement happens, this road, this realignment is going to happen in this area. Part of this road will be removed, and there'll be. This is private, so it could still remain a driveway. These properties are adjacent to properties to the east that are general business, and UPS properties, this small one and this one, and I believe that's Wayne Smith's property back behind there, that are all general business, and of course, all along Highway 107 is general business. They're not located in the 100-year floodplain either, so there's no water issues or flooding on those properties. These properties are or can be served by Tuckasegee Water and Sewer Authority for Public Utilities. Some of these, we've had some discussions in years past. Some of these may be on a rental with some of the property owners that had some stuff back there. So just letting you know that obviously Tuckasegee also can serve them. Application response. The applicant is requesting that the existing town of Sylva zoning map be amended to designate the 6 subject properties, the 1.19 acres to general business. So again, these properties highlighted in yellow. Site findings. The requested map amendment would not constitute spot zoning, as the proposed or the properties, to the east are zoned general business. So remember, we've had these conversations in the past. Spot zoning is frowned upon in North Carolina. It's somewhat illegal. Case law doesn't really allow for it. So an example of that would be if you had this box right here and this wanted to go to industrial development and everything around it still remained high density residential, that would be spot zoning, because you're asking for something that's not fluid across the zoning map and through the jurisdiction. In this case, these properties, these 6 properties are adjacent on these sides here to the east and south of existing general business district. So it's not considered spot zoning in that case. The town's adopted land use plan for 2040 establishes that these properties will be in the future neighborhood or urban neighborhood district. The encouraged land uses for the future district include primary residential, small lot, single family, townhome residential, 2 and 3 and 4 family units, and multifamily, civic and educational uses that support community residents, live work units, small scale in-home businesses, and small scale public open space, i.e. pocket parks, passive open space, greenways, etc. However, if the map amendment request is approved, these properties will be in the future community corridors district with the encouraged land uses for this district being mixed use buildings, institutional uses, walkable neighborhood commercial, retail, office, personal services, large scale commercial, business centers, community services, civic and educational services. In addition, the requested map amendment will create availability or available property and opportunity in the general business district that may be needed to serve the community during and after the proposed Highway 107 improvements. So this is the future land use map that was adopted by the town board. And this is the 2040 map, the plan and the map. So again, those highlighted lots are right there. It might be hard to make out. The purple is that community corridor district, and then the urban neighborhood is kind of like a teal color. Inside that yellow highlight is a teal, and these are purple. So it's kind of the same situation. Then you look at the existing map, the current map, the zoning map of the town. It's just the same scenario. So urban neighborhood up against the community corridor. A blow up of that is this. So obviously those 6 lots, and same thing that we're talking about, butted up right against the what is now the general commercial district. In your packet, it should have these 2 designations and what they mean. So the urban neighborhoods and what that is, I kind of explained it briefly in the report, but basically that's what it is. This area in blue or peppered around the town is going to be what that urban neighborhoods, future urban neighborhoods district will be. It may not be called urban neighborhoods, it may be called something else, but nonetheless, that's what the future land plan is kind of, taking out the crystal ball and trying to figure out where we are going forward. That's the thought process there. And then of course the community corridor, again, the name is a placeholder and that could change, but it's, all along here. And then, South 107 is going to be that area. So again, getting into more of what the uses are, similar to what our existing general business district is. That is my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Can you talk about what the application states is, like the justification for the rezoning, what they plan to do with the property?
No, because that's just an opinion of what the applicant wants.
Okay.
So what my job is as staff is to present to you what the current ordinance is, what the land use plan, the future land use plan is showing, and the differences between the future district. Kind of going through the technical things of that it's not spot zoning, for example, that there's not flooding issues that are identified on the property. And it's kind of more of this is a legislative process. It's not something that's going to be, debated, I guess. It's more of does the town want to need this or do they not? And that's really where it
So the future business district has the area in yellow as like a park area.
No, it's the urban neighborhood
Urban neighborhood.
jurisdiction, which is more of a kind of like what it is now, kind of more of a high density district with other like passive parks, greenways and stuff that could be peppered in there. If there's land.
So if this goes to general business, will that negate the future?
No,
plans?
not necessarily. I mean, no, what will happen is that the town has to be consistent with, by law, the town has to be consistent with the future land use plan. So as these things happen, and we've got a lot, we're pretty fluid here because of what's going on with 407, right? So we really didn't have that data when the assessment was going on and the adopted plan kind of happened, the future land use plan. We kind of knew about it, but we didn't really have a lot of detail to it. Going forward, the town technically, as these rezonings happen, we've had a few of them, that you've all been involved with in the recent past. Our land use map has to be updated to reflect that, to stay in the lane. So, the state doesn't get, come back and say, hey, you guys aren't following what you're supposed to be doing here. So to answer your question, yes and no. I mean, if the amendment gets approved and all the other ones that have happened in the recent past, that future land use map just has to be updated. The plan itself is fine because they're all still holding their placeholders of what they will be in the future. Now, if the prospective owner or property purchaser were to get these, and he has them for 5 years and says, you know what, this ain't working out like I thought it would be. I want to just go back to high density residential and do some duplexes on here or multifamily. You could just come back here and get a rezoning back to high density or whatever the district is going to be called. There's really it's not chiseled in stone here. I mean, it could.
But the ultimate goal for them is to potentially sell that whole parcel, all of that together, blue and the yellow, as one area.
Well, to develop it as a development or a development of multiple buildings.
Because right now it's only the blue area that can have.
That's right, for non-residential type of activities. So if they want to come in here, and of course, again, following the development standards of the ordinance, come in here, do some parking or maybe a small office building, maybe do something a little bit larger back here, restaurants or something. And keep in mind that no matter what is said in an application, whatever, when it goes to a different district, all those uses are available and allowed on there that are used by right. So it's not just one or the other. What is the desire today may not be the desire 2 years from now because plans might change, or site conditions will force that. You don't know when you start pushing dirt around. So,
But if it is moved to general business, those people who live in trailers will not be there.
they will be temporarily until the plan to develop happens.
Correct. Right. Then they'll go somewhere else. Yeah.
I do have, and I don't know if you can answer this, but how does 107 affect the UPS location? Like, will that be, are they staying?
Yeah,
Okay,
well, yes, it's not affecting their property other than they won't be able to do left-hand turns. There's gonna be a closed median here, so they're gonna, they're getting a little bit shaved off right here. And of course, this is gonna be relined back here, Cove Creek and Walter Ash, right through this area, right here where the old bank is and where that creek is. We do have, we have been talking about this property right here is actually bought up by an owner right now that's talking about doing obviously redeveloping this. These properties really are not very affected. There is, if you look on the plat, the recent plat and survey, there is a line here that is the future right away. You can see where it is. It's not very far from. So it's not really being affected much there on that farm.
One question I had is the proposed new use is the community corridor, and it mentions kind of the walkability that it serves the local community, and it can be kind of walkable in terms of personal services, retail space or something like that. Do you think that's a walkable space from from the neighborhood or from 107, or what's your?
Well, when the road improvement happens, there's gonna be sidewalk on both sides and there's gonna be bike lanes on both sides.
So yes.
So in terms of alternate modes of transportation, then to answer your question, yeah, because not only will you be able to, I mean, we have sidewalk all along this side anyway, but yes, when the new alignment happens here, we're gonna have sidewalk here that's gonna connect 107. We'll have sidewalk in that little stretch of Cove Creek when it gets realigned.
Right.
That connects that area. We'll have a crosswalk there. That, so it's all kind of coming together the best that it can.
Mhm.
Obviously, if we're live here, we're not gonna have a sidewalk that's chasing over
Sure.
this neighborhood. But anything that's really affected by the roadway improvement, there's gonna be sidewalk connection. Any new development, this already has sidewalks, so there's really no issues with
Mhm.
this development in the future. They're always gonna have sidewalk right there today and even after the improvement happens, because DOT, if it's there, they're replacing it.
Right.
So that's not really affected. So, yeah, it makes the overall with everything going on in the future. We're hoping before 2030, Paige, that in the meetings that we've been in is that, yeah, I mean, you'll be able to walk on both sides of 107 from
Right.
town all the way down to the high school.
Right.
And through that area. So it will pick up all those pocket neighborhoods that are back off 107 and so forth. So, yeah, I mean, I think it certainly is not hurting anything, I guess.
But the yellow properties wouldn't necessarily like have improved walkability or anything like magically if we approve this. It depends on how it's developed. But it would have access. I mean, it would then be part of the community corridor and vision, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But understand that if this became all one district,
Mhm.
the same district, and there was a restaurant here, maybe an office space back here, there was parking, you know, kind of peppered around the property, and of course, being developed per the ordinance regulations. That doesn't mean, our ordinance doesn't require sidewalk be built from this back building all the way up to there. It doesn't require that. It only requires it at the front of the property, the public right of way. Now, obviously, naturally, when you develop those things around parking areas, interior parking lots, you're getting from point A to point B. They're not, you know, obviously the developer's going to do a sidewalk up against a curb and up to the front door. So they may have interconnectivity within, you know, the actual little development that potentially could happen, but you know, we don't require it on site.
And the application does talk about like leaving the mobile homes for the next 2 years and how the Soul and Fusion restaurant is already like where it's located is like into that HDR.
Yeah, it is.
Right now anyway, right?
Yep.
So how it's already kind of like, I don't know, but we shouldn't necessarily consider that. Is that correct? Like what they're saying they want to do with the property or
Well,
keeping the mobile?
yeah, I mean, you can consider it, I guess, in your decision making. Again, it's legislative. It's not really a special use permit where it's quasi judicial. You have to have expert witness testimony to say this is going to work or that's not going to work. It can be based on opinion. It can be based on what you feel is right for the town. I only bring that up is to say that it doesn't matter what today somebody says they want to do, because it could totally change tomorrow. And I don't think I'm telling tales out of school there. I think it's just, we're changing from one district to the next. So all bets are off. It could be whatever's in that district.
Right.
John. Do you want me to read this from or the buyer?
I don't know that I mean, if you all want to hear that, it's not up to me. I mean.
Well, they were asking questions what it is, so.
Melissa, if you want to, she's.
Well, I mean, if it's not necessarily something that is going to.
Well, I'm the broker for the case and the buyer,
Yeah, I understand.
so I know what they're wanting to do and also help the team.
Mhm.
From a mapping standpoint, do you change the future land use map that this goes through and zoning map? Or do we need to?
Yeah, we can change the RGIS to reflect that, you know, for the real time, you know, online stuff, but the actual map, we don't have that file, so I don't know about the land use map, and I don't know about the Withers Ravenel, the current zoning map. I don't think we have that file either. Well, we can edit it. I don't think we've got that. Of course, we can edit our data, our GIS data, but those documents we don't have. So we're happy to do it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can get that testimony. The land use plan is a little more. It's not involved, but it's something that the board's gonna have to. The stuff that we've been changing along the way, they just have to be consistent with what's changed on that now.
If the town board didn't go, and I should know this, sorry, if the town board didn't go with the current future land use map to approve the zoning amendment, would we then have to change the future land use map? If the zoning amendment's approved?
Yes, it would, but we already have some in the hopper that we need to change.
But that is, you change one and then you automatically have to change the other.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody, I mean, I'm curious, of course,
Yeah.
but that's more like a personal curiosity. It doesn't really seem like it's necessarily relevant to whether like, so I don't mind hearing about it, but.
Well, it's your call, you're the chair, so it's not up to me.
Well, it sounds like, I think to your point earlier, it's like if the use has changed, kind of regardless of what the intention is right now, it could be something different. So really we should consider, it seems like the overall potential use as opposed to the specific plan that's in mind.
Right, the relevance of it, rather than like, oh, well, I don't like that idea, so I'm not gonna, like I said. So, I agree. Everybody's all right with that.
I'm glad to
We
hear
can
it,
just
but
get
it seems like you should, yeah, it seems like you should consider it. You want to hear it? Sorry.
It's fine.
Oh, yeah, I'm fine to hear it, but I do think when we consider it, we should think about.
Larry, what do you think?
It's fine. I mean,
Either way.
either way, it's fine.
Want to vote? Oops. Can we do that? Sure. All right, we would like to hear the owner broker plans for the property. One, okay, two.
Okay, sure, let's do it.
I'll make this quick. Good afternoon. The buyer of the Old Soul Infusion Restaurant and the trailer park behind is asking for rezoning to relocate either Zaxby's or Pizza Hut. And I have the seller of the property, the Kincaid's, client for 23 years, and the buyer also. And the buyer would clean up and maintain these trailers. He's concerned about, he doesn't want to shut it down. You got to get out. As we know, we need housing. But he would like to be able to go back there. The newest trailer back there is 23 years old. The oldest was built in 1945. So he wants to maintain them a little bit better, give them 2 or 3 years, or we don't know how long that's going to be. But whenever DOT takes the front, then they would be able to find a place. Hopefully we'll have some affordable housing by then. And also, Paige, you remember when we closed because people were coming down Pathfinder and down Walter Ash and cutting through their property and they didn't have a right of way. I'm not sure, would they even have a right of way to go down Pathfinder since we closed that? And they go out 107. But it does adjoin UPS, the small place over to the left. John probably knows more about this. The business owner of Hotspot is getting the old car wash and the old tire shop. So there's going to be commercial over there. And it could be a possibility that Pizza Hut and professional offices would be back there, or Zaxby's. Everybody's got to come and look at it and do the footprint. But it is a concern of his about like Zaxby's. They pay city and county taxes, and he would like to relocate it and keep those taxes here. And that's all. Thank you.
That said, if it stayed residential as well, you would get taxes. Pay taxes from
As much as Zach's.
that.
But I need to leave. I got to keep her.
She brought up, and it was in my mind too, when we did the vote to close that access road, right, if these are sold as 3 separate businesses, how are they gonna be forced to have the access to, say, whatever business ends up being back there off of Pathfinder? Or will 107 work its way, figure out access to those?
So the town closed Pathfinder because it was a paper right away. It wasn't, there was really no record of it really being a town
Right.
road. So in that case, what happens is that the properties on either side of that center line, they get that property on either side of that road, which means in this case, that existing property, it just gets closed in. So where Pathfinder is here, this is down, this line right here is in the center of the Pathfinder right of way, so to speak. So that actually goes away. And these properties are connected. So this becomes one giant property. If this is private, which it is, because DOT is not claiming it, the town has taken it off of, they've dissolved the right of way, so it's private at that point. So anything going up to it, if there is an existing easement somewhere deep in the bowels of the register of deeds, then yeah, they potentially have entitlement to get there from the new 107 Walter Ash realignment on this side to that side of the property. And if not, it's going to be 107. So the properties in effect are connected from front to back. Right now, there's no existing right of way that separates.
Am I correct in thinking that it was only this part that was closed? So is this an actual road going up to that section?
There's a
closed?
Yeah, that
Okay,
is a built road.
Yeah,
so could that be used to access?
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's
Okay.
private now. So
It's a private road though?
Yes.
Okay. Thoughts or questions? I guess my only thought about it also is that, like, do we need more general business or do we need more high density residential space? As she mentioned, we do definitely need housing. So I think that's something we should consider as well. Not necessarily jump quickly on shrinking high density residential districts. Or
But I see, and the other business is gonna have to move because of the
Pizza Hut has to.
Pizza Hut.
Zaxby's, understand what goes on with the corporate world when you have frontage on a major street and you have parking and so forth. They're always traffic. The roadway is not really affecting the Zaxby's building, but it is going to take away some parking up front, kind of couple of front side of that building. Now, so when you're talking, take it and remove it from local and bring it up to the corporate office and say, hey, look what we're dealing with here. They get a little jumpy, right? I mean, I've been in this world, on the other side of the fence, designing and developing these plans for clients. So they're all looking for acre and a half with parking, put their footprint on it, have high exposure, usually on a corner with a light, and that's what they're looking for. So they start to get a little nervous when roadway improvements happen and they start to lose parking, maybe lose some exposure or lose access. That's the other big thing. This one will probably have better access with Zachary's where it's going to be now. Again, there's not going to be any left turns in or out. Where this will have, Walter Ash, Oak Creek close to it, and then if the Pathfinder lane private drive works out, there's a side, relief right there. In both cases, it's going to be right in, right out. Only because they're going to be front of it. So that really doesn't change, but their actual footprint of where they're at now is going to be affected. The property footprint, not the building. But Pizza Hut is definitely, they have to go because needs we've been involved with is that they've got stormwater and everything. So there's a lot, and that's still pretty fluid. I think they still quite don't have that 100%, but I think that's the direction.
How many acres is in the yellow
1.19.
total?
Yep.
So are we leaning toward? I hesitate to take a vote before knowing, like, are we going to be split again? Or like, so can I get a general idea, like what people are leaning toward? Or can I do that, or do I just need to ask?
You get a general idea.
Mhm.
In support of it.
Yeah, I mean, you're not gonna get much high density residential. Area. I mean, if you wanted to have family housing or something, you're not gonna get a lot in there.
Because of the access to it.
Size.
Oh,
If you look at the current regulations for high density, there are minimum land areas required for a unit. So your horizontal footprint is starting to get taken up by landscaping and stormwater and parking that's required for that. So if you go vertical with the building, your horizontal footprint is still growing. That's not changing. So if you're trying to save land area by the rooftop, everything else still gets bigger. And to your point, you may be able to get a quad or a triplex or something like that in there, maybe two, but it's not really any different than it is really right now, or probably less, based on the current regulation, which requires to redevelop. If you start doing landscape buffers, parking that's required, setbacks, building setbacks, you're squeezing yourself into a
Do we have
box.
height restrictions too?
Yeah, height restrictions.
The folks that live in the trailers, are they renting or are they owners?
Yeah, all these 6 properties, the 8 properties, including the 2 general businesses, are all owned by the same owner, the Kincaid family.
And that's gonna speak.
what are you thinking?
I was leaning towards supporting as well. Yeah, there's clearly a need for the affordable housing and high density housing. I mean, that is really drove my engagement with this board in the first place. But also with the redevelopment of 107, there's obviously also a need for places for businesses to work. So to me, it seems like given the location and the the neighbors and so forth, it doesn't seem like an inappropriate place to change to a business zoning.
I agree.
Shall we have a vote then? Can I get a motion to approve the zoning amendment request from Kincaid Properties? Yeah, can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor? Again,
I got
again,
it.
sorry,
Gotta
ask
ask
for
for
the
the-
audience, okay, sorry. And then we need to specifically approve a statement of consistency pursuant to General Statute 160B. So this is regarding the proposed zoning map amendment, from high density residential to general business for parcels identified by PIN. Do I need to read all the pins? Okay, by the pins of which we speak of. The town of Sylva Planning Board has found the zoning map amendment to parcels identified herein to be supported by the town of Sylva 2040 land use plan. We find the proposed amendment to be consistent with the key drivers for the plan for Sylva identified on page 29 and 32 of the land use plan. Specifically referring to the two parts of the land use plan affected. This will be turned from an urban neighborhood, of which character includes existing residential new areas where it's envisioned that reinvestment in the community can and will occur, with a focus on providing a variety of housing options that are walkable to downtown Sylva. And it will be changed to a community corridor. The intent of that to be created an authentic Sylva look and feel for the town's entryways. Will be the town's workhorse corridors connecting commercial areas to residential neighborhoods while providing a major transportation link, job centers and areas outside of Sylva. The key to success is redevelopment that incorporates a mix of land uses in compact developmental patterns, links downtown and neighborhoods, and provides additional housing options, neighborhood amenities, and job opportunities. With some exception, the form the uses take is more important than land use. We therefore consider the proposed zoning map amendment to be reasonable and in the public interest. Can I get a motion to approve this statement? Or any discussion regarding it? Can I get a second? Second. All in favor? Any opposed? The statement is approved. That is all for today. Yeah. All right. Can I get a motion to adjourn? And can I get? Just saying that.
John, I have a question for you, for the top record.